Welcome to Finding Certainty with your host and U.S. Army veteran, Patrick Laing. Over the next hour, you'll learn from Patrick and his expert guests how to attract more certainty into your business and your life. Now, here is your host, Patrick Laing.
Welcome back to another episode of Finding Certainty, everyone. I'm very pleased to have our special guest today, Mr. Lewis Brown. He's the founder and CEO of Certified Affordable Housing Provider and also StreetSmartInvestor.com. Looking forward to hearing your story today, Lou, and sharing with our audience some of the really extraordinary things you're doing to help people realize the dream of home ownership. I know you're doing a lot of work with veterans, so that's fantastic. But thanks for being here, Lou. I really appreciate it.
Well, Patrick, thank you for a great invitation. I so much appreciate it. You know, it's just exciting when you can help people to obtain home ownership. You know, the sad thing is in the United States of America, 36% of this country, or 38%, depending on what statistics you're using, do not have a home in their name. And yet it's one of the most foundational pieces of the entire spectrum of someone's economy and getting to the point where they're free and clear before they ever tap into a thing called Social Security, which I call social insecurity.
I know it's becoming more and more true, isn't it? We're at risk all the time of Social Security going down, going away. I know it worries a lot of seniors out there, but if you don't own your home on top of that, I mean, talk about insecurity, right?
Well, you know, a lot of folks never really understood where Social Security came from. The intention was that it never was supposed to be used for housing. It was supposed to be used for groceries, but housing was supposed to be out of the way before you get to Social Security. So in other words, you buy a house at a younger age and over a 30-year span, you pay down and pay off that mortgage. Now you own the home free and clear. You only have to worry about property taxes and insurance and groceries, and you're all set for life. But a lot of people missed that education. And so as a result, they're stuck with having to pay for their housing out of their retirement. So we love to get people to get on that trajectory towards home ownership and really know that it's an asset that's not only good for them, but can be passed down from generation to generation.
Right. Well, I always start the show out by saying and sharing two main reasons why I've invited this guest to be with us. And I couldn't agree with you. I couldn't agree more with you with everything you're saying. You know, our show is entitled Finding Certainty. And what more can we do to create certainty in our lives than to own our own home, right? I mean, there's a lot of things we can do. We can build our investments up. We can have strong relationships, but owning our own real estate, owning our own roof over our heads creates such a level of security that of certainty that there's very little that can compare. We have an old friend who is in his 80s, and he's always smiling. And his wife says he's smiling because his house is paid off. Right? And I love that. But so two reasons why I invited Lou to come on our show today. Number one is this fact that he is helping Americans across the country, especially focused on veterans, but so many others, to realize that American dream. And that is such a core piece of finding certainty in our lives. Secondly, Lou has created a way for those of us with an entrepreneurial spirit, real estate investors, entrepreneurs, and so forth, to share in this program, to share in this project in helping others realize this American dream and benefit in the process. And so it's truly a win-win-win. And I'm excited to hear about it. We're new introduction. We're new friends. So I don't know as much about the program as I'd like to. So I'm looking forward to learning it. And I know our audience is going to enjoy hearing it as well.
Wow. That is fantastic, Patrick. And so exciting. You're absolutely right that not only did I evolve into a process by which people could obtain home ownership, but I also evolved into a process of teaching and training others so that they could do it as well. Because it is such a big oyster, such a blue ocean. There's so many people that need it. About 80% of the population out there do not have good enough credit or down payment to qualify for a traditional low interest loan. So as a result, they're kind of left out and they have to go into apartments or rental houses, and they really don't have that trajectory or vision that they could actually obtain home ownership. So it's been a wonderful and fantastic journey to create the brand called Certified Affordable Housing Provider. And what my CAPs do, we call them CAPs, is to offer a program called the Path to Home Ownership, where we help deserving families end up with home ownership regardless of credit or financial background. So now you can just imagine that all of those folks out there, those 80% that can't qualify for a low interest loan, now have a path. And the path is very simple. It's whatever cash they have to work with, plus some other spiffers that we can add to the pile to give them a nice, big, fat down payment that gives them the opportunity then for my certified affordable housing provider to actually become the bank essentially for them, and allow them to build up their credit, build up their down payment, and then be able to qualify for a loan at a traditional bank at a later date if they choose to, or just continue to work with my CAP for the next 40 years.
Right. That's fantastic. I know you have over 500 different branches or franchisees out there, offices across the country now. I mean, I want to get into the story of CAHP and what you're doing. I mean, you've written a couple of books at least. I know of at least two. I think there may even be others. I know you're a well-regarded real estate investor and trainer and so forth. But before we get into what you do and how you do it, I always like to start my show out with how you got here. Okay, tell us a little bit about where you're from, where you grew up, and kind of your path that led you to this role that now you are so respected as.
Well, Patrick, it's a very interesting story because my mother came over to this country as a war bride. She was an immigrant to this country, and she had met her American trooper husband. Everything was going to be fantastic. The federal government rented the Queen Mary and brought all these war brides over from World War II, right, that the American troopers had found in their off time and decided
souvenirs,
their wife for the rest of their life. But she got here to this country and discovered that he was an alcoholic and an abuser. She was by herself, and then she met my father, her second mistake, and it ended up just being the two of us. So literally no brothers, no sisters, no cousins, no uncles, no aunts, no grandparents, nobody but just the two of us against the world. And it's a funny story because, in fact, I keep a reminder on my desk here of S&H green stamps, because back in the day, they used to have green stamps and you would literally go to a redemption center with these books. It was like currency, and you bought things at the redemption center, and they gave you these stamps when you bought groceries or you bought gasoline. And so then you put them in these books and you bought stuff. Well, we furnished our apartment with S&H green stamp. So our dining table was a Samsonite card table until I was 17 years old. Wow. So I definitely remember hard metal chairs and a belly in the middle card table that was our dining table. And so that's where my background comes from. And I was fortunate enough to meet my mom's friends, and I became an adult very quickly because I realized a saying, and I always encourage people to write this down: if it is to be, it is up to me. It is. So I learned that early, and it was a very valuable lesson. And I thank God for that lesson, because it gave me some real foundation to who I am as a person and what we experienced. So sure enough, my mom had a friend named, I call her Aunt Mabel and Uncle George, and they owned a duplex. In fact, at 8 years old, I remember going to her duplex, and she told me we bought the duplex. And she said, the people on the other side pay enough money to cover the mortgage. And what she was saying to my 8-year-old self is they were living for free. Now,
Right.
here we were hiding out from the rent man, and here they were living for free. And that's when I learned that there's parallel universes. There's people with knowledge and there's people without knowledge. And the people without knowledge are destined to fail and destined to suffer, as is said in the Bible. So
Absolutely.
without knowledge, lack of knowledge is so. And in my world, what I realized is that I just had to pay attention to other people that were successful. Well, sure enough, Aunt Mabel bought another duplex, and the people on one side were paying enough to cover the mortgage, and the other money was theirs. And she bought another one and another one and another one, all on the same street now that they lived on. And then she called me one day and she says, come over here and help me move. I said, move where? She said, a brand new house in a brand new subdivision, all brick home on a corner lot, 2-story house. And I said, wow, this is amazing. How did you do this? And she said 2 words that changed my life. She said, accumulate property. What a powerful statement. She said, accumulate property. And so I stuck with that. And then at 18 years old, she told me, you need to buy a house. Now, remember, I'm 18 years old. She says, you need to buy a house. I said, how am I going to do that? You go to banks and qualify for loans. She says, I don't know, but you need to meet my friend, Realtor Sue. Sure enough, here comes a lady in her big Cadillac and blue-haired lady. And she says, get in. And so we go driving around like, I'm going to buy a house or something. But she knew a secret that Aunt Mabel didn't know, and it was a thing called NENQ loans, non-escalating, non-qualifying loans. So for $45 back in the day, you could take over somebody else's loan. So I bought my first house that way, my second house that way. My third property was a duplex I bought that way. And I learned that I don't have to go to banks and I don't have to qualify for loans. So that was a powerful thing to take away from that experience. And sure enough, trajectorying ahead, I'm now over 40 years in the business of buying, holding, and selling property. I've never been to the bank. I've never qualified for a loan traditionally. And I said, wait a minute, if you can avoid going to banks, you can teach others that they can avoid to go to banks as well. And you can teach them that they can become banks for the people that are moving into their homes. And they can work on a thing called arbitrage, the difference between what you pay for the property and what you sell it for, and make the difference in between. It's a beautiful thing. And it's wrought with tax benefits. So you can literally zero out your taxes while making a very, very nice living.
Wow. So what was your mother's name? Is she still with you, or she passed on?
No, my mom passed away. Her name was Georgina. In fact, we created a foundation in her honor, G.D. Sanford Foundation. She got remarried after I left Charlotte and moved to Atlanta. Okay. And I was transferred by a company I was with. And, I went to college for a whole year.
To the big city. Huh?
I couldn't figure out why I was there. And I said, well, I'll come back to this if something else doesn't work out. And I went into sales and I never went back. And it was the greatest move I ever made, because I got a kind of a 3-year head start on a lot of other folks by getting into the business world and learning things. But my mom tried to buy a house when I was 12 years old. She was turned down for the loan. And as a result of that turn down, she never wanted to talk about buying a house again. So Aunt Mabel had inspired her to try to buy a house when I was 12 years old, but that didn't work out. And it was just a pushback. She said, no, that's not for us. Forget about it. I don't want to talk about it. So sure enough, the first opportunity I had to live in a home was buying that house when I was 18 years old. And in fact, my mom became my first tenant. She paid me $100 a month and washed some clothes and cooked some meals. And
that's a good deal.
I said, Mom, take the other $500. We were paying $600 rent at the time. I said, take the other $500 and put it towards your debt. So sure enough, a year and a half later, she was free and clear for the rest of her life. And that was a great gift that I could give her for all the sacrifices she made for me. No doubt about it. And so that's the kind of the history of my journey. And then now, fast forward to today, the path to home ownership. If there had been a program like we've got today, my mom could have bought into that program, and I would have been raised in a home.
So, I married a widow with 3 children, and I've always said that single moms are they're bionic women. The pressures they bear, the work they do, working 3 jobs, whatever it is, raising children without a father figure in the picture, that's challenging. That there's statistics that show that children these days, latchkey children and others that don't have a dad in their lives, a lot of them run into trouble. So, it says a lot. Your mom must have been an amazing woman.
She was, and it was. What's really interesting is I was a latchkey kid. I literally had a chain around my neck because I would lose the key. And so we went to the hardware store, got a chain, and put my key on the chain. So I remember my mom was so upset one day because they took school pictures and a little piece of the chain showed in the picture. She was just devastated by that. But, because back in the day, you do
what you got to do, right?
You had to do they didn't have programs and all this stuff. There was no WIC program or anything like that. You just went to work. You got up and went to work if you wanted to eat. And so that was what my childhood was. But definitely, the opportunity is so great to help people to, really get past the things that can stop them and, our fail points in the process.
Right. Well, you wrote a book called Doing Good While Doing Well. I want to talk a little bit about that. We're coming up on our first break. You said you grew up in North Carolina and then eventually moved to Atlanta. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah.
And where do you live now? Are you still in Atlanta?
Yeah, Tucker, Georgia. Outside of Atlanta, and we've been here ever since 1980. So it's been a fantastic journey.
I've been all over the world, about 40 different countries and 58 states now. I was at 48 states. I was at 47 until October of last year. North Carolina was number 48. And I just visited. I was invited to speak at a big CEO summit at Lynchburg University. And we were in a conference in Orlando prior to that, in the middle of Hurricane Ian back in October. And then I flew up to Raleigh so I could drive up to Lynchburg and check North Carolina off my list. I just never been there.
How about that?
Gorgeous
it's a fabulous state. Yeah, really great state. And I want to, that would be a great bucket list thing for me, is checking off all the states. I've been to a bunch of them, but I don't think I've been to 48.
Yeah, you should add them up. I still have to go to North Dakota and Kentucky, and I'll be done. So we are visiting with Lou Brown. He's the founder and CEO of, let's see if I can get it right, the Certified Affordable Housing Provider and StreetSmartInvestor.com. And when we come back from our break, we're going to hear exactly what those do and how it works. Let's dig into the nuts and bolts of your program, how it's changing both entrepreneurs' lives and homeowners' lives. Very excited to see how it works and understand it better, Lou. So thanks again for being here.
Fantastic. Awesome.
Become our friend on Facebook. Post your thoughts about our shows and network on our timeline. Visit Facebook.com/Voice America.
Certainty Management can help create more certainty in your life with our deep discount health insurance options, even for 1099s, part-time employees, volunteers, and more. Pay less to protect yourself, your loved ones, and your team. Call 888-684-3122 for a free quote today. That's 888-684-3122. Visit us on the web at CertaintyTeam.com. That's Certainty, TEAM, like Mary.com.
If you're a nonprofit in need of funding, we can help. Certainty Management is a cost reduction firm that also helps churches, schools, sports teams, and other nonprofits raise unlimited zero-cost funding. Best of all, you don't have to sell anything or ask for donations. Call 888-684-3122 to learn more today. That's 888-684-3122. Visit us on the web at CertaintyTeam.com. That's Certainty, T-E-A-M, like Mary.com.
Voice America Business Network, the bottom line in business.
You are listening to Finding Certainty with Patrick Laing. Have a question for Patrick or his guests? Join us on the show at 866-472-5790. That's 866-472-5790. Now, back to the show with Patrick.
Welcome back, everybody. We're visiting with Lou Brown. He's the owner of StreetSmartInvestor.com, which I love that name. I think most of us would love to be a street smart investor. And then also the Certified Affordable Housing Provider. This is a program that over the last several years, you've developed over 500 different CAHP offices. I mean, that's impressive. So let's dig into it. And just so you all know, I don't usually go into a lot of the bio because it's listed in the write-up, and I just don't want to take the time. But I mean, Lou he is a highly regarded real estate investor. He's an author, he's a speaker, he's a trainer, he's produced. I mean, I just asked ChatGPT, tell me about Lou Brown, and it went on for about 3 pages the other day. Yeah.
I didn't even know about that.
If you don't know ChatGPT, it's a new AI program.
Oh, I know about that, but I didn't know it had a whole story about me.
You're in there. Yep. I mean, president of the Georgia Real Estate Investors Association, founding president of the National Real Estate Investors Association. I mean, the list goes on and on. So let's talk about where your experience and where your all this real estate investment experience and the lessons you've learned, the NENQ loans, and I want to hear more about that if it's still an option. How did it take you to where you are today? And more importantly, how does it work? Let's get into the program. That's what people, I'm sure, are sitting on the edge of their seats and waiting to hear. So,
well, what we do, Patrick, it's such a great question, is where do we start? We start with where our customer is. So what I've designed is a customer-driven company, and I teach my folks to build their business around the customers. So we actually market to find those customers in the first place that need what we've got. And then when those folks come to us, we analyze their situation. We look at their credit, we look at their down payment, we look at their options, and their timeline of what they're trying to accomplish. And then we match them with a property. And in fact, our buyers help us find that property for them. And then we negotiate the deal, we purchase the property, and they move in. They move in with a down payment. Now, that down payment can be in the form of cash that they have, plus what we call work for equity or work for credit. And what we allow them to do is some or all of the repairs to the home in exchange for a credit towards their down payment. So they have their cash plus their work for equity. If they're willing to do that, by the way, they don't have to. It's not a requirement. It's an option and an opportunity for them to add to their down payment.
And then sweat equity, huh?
Sweat equity. You got it. And that's how our whole country was built, on sweat equity, right?
Absolutely.
People got out and caused things to happen. And I got tired of painting walls only to have people come in and paint their own colors onto those walls. So I said, why am I bothering painting the walls? Well, why don't I just give my customers the opportunity to paint the colors, whatever they want on those walls? And it's all good because I really don't care what color they paint those walls. I want them to get completely rooted into that property so that they don't move and they want to pay. And they get their kids rooted into those schools, and we can become the bank for them for the next 40 years. So the opportunity is really for us to work with clients where they're at based upon the amount of down they have, plus any work for equity credit they're willing to do, plus any kind of programs that might be available in their local area. Grant programs for down payment assistance, foundations that may do matching funding and what have you. So we're trying to, I call it pancaking. We're pancaking the amount of money they have to bring to the table. And my cap is the recipient of that down payment. So it's a very good thing. And they're recipient in a couple of ways, because money they would have spent on the property is still in their pocket. So if they're giving a credit to the buyer, well, that's money that they didn't have to spend, right? And it opens the door for more people to be able to take advantage of our program, because let's face it, people living paycheck to paycheck don't typically have a big fat paycheck to put down. However, there's another whole group of people that are underserved out there, and that's business owners, people that the banks don't love, but we love them because they can prove their income and they do have down payment money. So there's definitely two groups of folks that we are focused on, and it's people with down payment and plenty of income that we can put into a home, as well as those that are underserved by the traditional banks.
That's really interesting. We do a lot of work with our company, Certainty Management, and really have focused on small businesses. We have a big focus lately on helping them recover expenses. We're a cost reduction firm, a profit consulting firm, but recently, and for the next 2 or 3 years until it expires, we're helping small businesses recover the employee retention tax credit that you've probably heard of. It's an extraordinary program. They can receive up to $26,000 per W-2 employee, and we can help any business from 1 to 500 employees, W-2 employees. If they kept their employees on during COVID, they're being rewarded for having done so with this payroll tax refund. And so I love any kind of program that is rewarding people for good things, for good work, right? For good effort. We don't all start in the same spot. We haven't all had the same advantages or opportunities. But that's what I love about CHP, is that you are rewarding that desire and that effort and that blue collar worker or that veteran or that small business owner who maybe has run up against some challenges, been hit by the pandemic or been robbing Peter to pay Paul, but you're giving them this opportunity and kind of a leg up to realize that dream. I mean, it's extraordinary.
Well, thank you. Thank you. It is a very rewarding experience when we can take people where they're at and then have them actually end up with home ownership, a brand new loan from the bank, or paying us off, whatever the case may be. It is just very rewarding. So we actually have levels in our program. We have bronze, silver, gold, and platinum. So if someone joins us at the rent level, that's bronze. If they're at rent to own, that's our silver level. Our in-house financing is gold. And when they get a new loan and pay us off, that's the platinum level. So we give them certificates at each level, and our paperwork and our program is wired so that they can move up through that process to end up with home ownership.
So explain to me how that works, because if somebody has credit challenges, for example, they've been through medical expenses or whatever, there's 100 different reasons why people have credit problems. Some of them their own fault, some of them were imposed upon them, right?
Very much so.
How do you get someone from rent, where sometimes it's even hard to get into an apartment when you have bad credit, let alone a home, but how are you moving these people up from rent to own and so forth?
Yeah. So we start with the amount of money that they put down, whatever that is. Now, I will tell you that a lot of my licensees have taken rent off the table, because who imagined in your entire lifetime that they would shut down the court system? And so being able to get your property back if someone stops paying is a real challenge. So we're really not pushing rent these days, but we are definitely doing the rent to own. which requires a minimum of 3.7% of the sales price of the property, or 10% at the gold level. So in other words, in-house financing is our gold level, and they have to have 10% of the sales price of the property at that point to qualify for that. So at the rent-to-own level, for example, it actually states in the paperwork that their original option fee, which buys them a 3-year option to buy that property. We fix the price for 1 year, and then it begins to appreciate after that 12th month. And we give them up to 3 years. Well, when they pay on time, we also give them a bonus credit every month for paying on time. And that is that combination of their original option fee, which we convert to a credit, along with their monthly credits, helps them to build up towards that 10% that's required to go to the in-house financing program. So some people come to us with either enough work for equity or enough cash or a combination of the two, plus maybe grant, whatever. They come to us with that. Well, they automatically go right in at the gold level, which is the in-house financing level. And so that we're giving them an opportunity to join us wherever they're at and then grow up from there.
So is it a program that's available in all 50 states? Is there a minimum credit, and a minimum credit score?
We even have people doing it in other parts of the world.
Really?
So credit score is not our issue. Our issue is proof of income. We need proof of income. We need dependable, predictable monthly income as a foundation for moving them in on the program. We have to be able to see proof of their income in order to be able to put them in. So it's a combination of their move-in money plus their income that qualifies them to be able to move in at whatever level it is and whatever price point they can qualify for.
And what are you looking for income verification? Because this is a challenge for small businesses. It used to be they could do stated loans. They don't do that very much anymore.
Bank deposits.
What are you looking for? Bank deposits?
Bank deposits, because then we've got something that's third-party verified, right? It's not, hey, I got all this money in my mattress. But, we've got something that we can look back on bank statements and see the deposits, but we can also see the expenditures. So are they saving any money? Are they being responsible around their money? Right. What are they currently paying in rent? What can they afford? Obviously, if they're paying $1,000 and we want to put them in at $2,000 per month, well, that's a big jump for most people. Can they really afford that? Well, yeah, if they've been putting aside $1,000 a month, they absolutely can afford that. So it really is looking at them from a holistic standpoint about their money management as well.
Well, you can see how many overdraft fees they've had that month and so forth, right?
Exactly right. Are they being responsible? Which is another thing that we do. We actually put our folks on payroll deduction from work. So every pay period they're paying, because if you really think about it, that's a big fat payment that has to come in once a month. Where is that coming from? For a lot of people, that's a struggle. Imagine that every pay period they're paying towards their housing. So by putting it on direct deposit, that has been a lifesaver for some people that just simply had never learned how to manage their money.
Right.
The government figured out that a long time ago, didn't they? They said, we're going to whisk off our money, and if you want any of it back, you have to apply for it to get it back. Right. Called a tax return, right?
Well, too bad we can't do the payroll, or the rent or the house payment pre-tax. Even better, right?
That would be great.
All right. Well, we're coming up on our second break here in a minute. But this is very interesting to me. There's, as I talk to small business owners all the time, and that's why I'm asking about verification. And do they still need to show 2 years of consistent deposits, or are you looking for 6 months, or is it Is there a specific
we're
cost
looking
burden
at,
you're trying to be below, or DTI?
yeah, we're looking at the longevity in the industry they're in. If they just started what they're doing and they don't really have that history, maybe the spouse does. So maybe the spouse has an income, dependable, predictable income, and we can kind of balance the scales there,
Right.
Which is often the case, by the way, when I'm working with an entrepreneur. They have someone else in the family has stabilized income. By the way, we take the entire household income and count that. So they might even have an in-law or a mother or father that's living with them as well. Their income can be counted as well. They are going to be on the paperwork also and be responsible for that payment. And so we take the holistic family approach.
Interesting. It's great news. Couple more minutes till our break. Tell us about your book.
Well, what might be cool for people to know is we do have a book. This is my Amazon bestseller. We're in the, I think, 5th edition of this, and it's Doing Good While Doing Well, How Real Estate Investors Provide a Service and Make a Difference. And it's written by not only myself, but licensees from all over America that are sharing their story with their local market about who they are in their local market and the difference that they're making in their local market. So it's definitely something that is very fulfilling. We gift this book to our sellers. We gift it to our lenders. We gift it to city council, county commission, nonprofit organizations. So we want them to know who we are and what we do. Your viewers can definitely go to getdoinggoodbook.com and get their own download copy of this as well.
Fantastic. I'll do that as soon as we're done here.
Awesome.
So in 60 seconds, how is this a business for people? I know you have people who are signing up to be licensees. You got about 60 seconds and we'll go to break, but can you give us a quick recap?
Well, this is the other book that we give to our buyers, and it's Never Pay Rent Again, The Path to Home Ownership. So my licensee, who's an entrepreneur, actually has an opportunity now to buy real estate, and they're going to be buying it in trust. That's another whole aspect of what I teach people is never own anything in your own name. Forget about LLCs. It's not your friend. There is another thing called trusts, and it's the best friend you're ever going to have when it comes to entity structuring. So I teach my licensees to purchase each property in its own trust, separate and segregate the risk from one another, and be able to also have an asset that is going to be passed to your heirs and avoid probate using a marvelous thing called trusts. So I'm teaching them this entire process of buying, holding and selling, and protecting all that you create using trust. So in this let's say ecosphere of everything that I'm teaching them, it's a very holistic business in a box, including a brand as well.
Very interesting. Well, we know that real estate is what has made many families and organizations wealthy. One of the very best investments they can make. And a lot of people want to know how to start. They're interested, but they just don't know where to start. So we're visiting with Lou Brown, and appreciate you being with us, Lou. We're going to go to break real quick, but we'll come back and continue the conversation.
Yeah, baby.
Follow us on Twitter at VoiceAmericaTRN. Get the lowdown on guests, new shows, and your favorites. That's VoiceAmericaTRN.
If you're a nonprofit in need of funding, we can help. Certainty Management is a cost reduction firm that also helps churches, schools, sports teams, and other nonprofits raise unlimited zero-cost funding. Best of all, you don't have to sell anything or ask for donations. Call 888-684-3122 to learn more today. That's 888-684-3122. Visit us on the web at CertaintyTeam.com. That's Certainty, T-E-A-M, like Mary.com.
Certainty Management can help create more certainty in your life with our deep discount health insurance options. even for 1099s, part-time employees, volunteers, and more. Pay less to protect yourself, your loved ones, and your team. Call 888-684-3122 for a free quote today. That's 888-684-3122. Visit us on the web at certaintyteam.com. That's certainty, T-E-A-M, like Mary.com.
When it comes to business, you'll find the experts here. Voice America Business Network.
You are listening to Finding Certainty with Patrick Laing. Have a question for Patrick or his guests? Join us on the show at 866-472-5790. That's 866-472-5790. Now, back to the show with Patrick.
Welcome back to the party, everyone. We're visiting with Lou Brown. I'm just going to read you one line from his bio. It says, Lou is a devoted husband and father, as well as an author, lecturer, inventor, builder, designer, and real estate expert. As I said, I looked you up a little bit because we're new relations. We were introduced by Frank Hellring and Simone Kavalheim and good friends of mine. And obviously, you were just on Frank's show as well a couple of weeks ago, Business Buzz.
That was great.
He got off the show with you. He says, you have to talk to Lou Brown. You have to have him on your show. He says, what he is doing is extraordinary. So he's a big fan. But okay, so let's jump into a little bit of what you're doing for veterans, because I know veterans, especially post 9/11 era veterans, are especially at risk. They have cost burdens of 35% and more many times, especially young veterans. They're coming out of the military, or they're still in the military, and they're struggling. And not only are they struggling with PTSD half the time, but they're also struggling financially. And the veteran suicide rate is off the charts. And so knowing that programs like yours exist that can give them some hope and some self-confidence and self-esteem and dignity, I mean, that's really inspiring to me. I'm a veteran myself. We're a veteran-owned company.
Thank you.
And
thank you for your service.
Oh, it's ultimate pleasure. But talk about that. Let's talk a little bit about veterans and how this program is helping them.
So you put your finger right on a lot of the issues that are facing veterans these days, and lack of education is the primary one. If somebody had only taught them that there was a way that they could manage their money. And I think that's why a lot of people stay in the military, is they're afraid to go out in the real world because they don't have a daddy. They don't have the government that basically tells them where to go and what to do and gives them a little stipend that doesn't really allow them to save any money or to get ahead in life. It's just enough to get by.
Right.
And so
housing and 3 squares a day, right? Exactly.
I mean, hey, what is there to worry about? Exactly. Well, that's the reason that a lot of people stay in there. But when they come out, that is a culture shock for many of them. They're really not prepared, and they don't have a path at all. So when I show a veteran our path to home ownership, they say, where do I sign up? I want in. And this is exactly where our heart lies, people that are putting their very lives at risk for our country. And whatever is going on with our country right now, I'm distressed about. But needless to say, these folks are in there. They're in it to win it for us. And I want to be there for them. So in our world, we get introduced to veterans in a variety of different ways. And I'm always looking for more, because there is such a need, and there's so many people that are doing. I mean, under President Trump's administration, they introduced many new programs and much new funding for veterans, and I'm very appreciative about that. And there's many different outliers there that have started their own whatever size organization, and they're looking for things like we have. So definitely, let's call this an outreach to veterans and to those that are looking to help veterans, that we can become part of your program. we can become part of your offering. You could even become your own certified affordable housing provider yourself and actually provide our program to your folks. So, it's not just bringing us leads and letting us help them find a house, but actually you can be your own conduit, and there's some good money in it. I'm not kidding. When you can resource a property by using skills to be able to purchase that property at a discount, and then being able to sell that property not only at retail, but retail plus, and make the spread in between, well, that makes for a happy life and a happy wife.
I'm such a big fan of everything you're saying, Lou. I have another good friend I should introduce you to. His name is Coach Elvin McFarland. He was a track coach for, I don't know, 50 years or something. Like Coach Jackie Joyner Kersey, and some big names. And
Coach,
no, he's out in there. You go. He's
what I get accused of a lot.
He's out in St. Louis, and he owns a nonprofit foundation, veterans foundation, called Honor to Our Heroes. And it's all about providing housing for homeless veterans and others. You guys would have great synergy, and I think you'd be very interested in your program. I'm a conservative myself. I actually like Trump, where not everybody does, and I like a lot of things he did. I think he could have been less divisive than he was, but I was actually invited to be on an economic council. What do you call it? I guess it was a broadcast. Coach invited me to come with him because he sits on a national council for veterans, and even Biden's what is the word? His administration is doing some really good things for veterans, and it's inspiring to me. It's encouraging to see that veterans are at the top of mind. That there are that even in Washington D.C. and in other places across the country, more and more organizations are really trying to help veterans, and so it's exciting to hear. I'll definitely set up an introduction between you and Coach McFarland. He's a wonderful man. But
I like that very much. And if we can basically work with anyone, veterans and everyone, and look at where they're at and what might be stopping them. For example, in our membership, and that's what happens, is that an individual joins our membership for $50. And what happens is, and that's not per month, that's annual. And what happens is we deliver a platform to them that trains them on becoming mortgageable. So understanding credit, understanding what the steps in the process are. Wow. We give them access to our book, Never Pay Rent Again. We do a number of services for them while they're looking for a property. We have an organization that we refer them out to for credit restoration. So we're looking at their credit and we're determining it's less than perfect. And then, okay, we've got someone that can correct your record and improve your record, because it's all about score now. So how do we help them on their score? And they could be living in the home now that they're going to buy and be building their credit. Funny thing, Patrick, we've had people that we've helped through the whole process, and they say, "Thank you very much. We're going to now go buy a brand new house. You helped us build up our credit and build up our down payment. We don't want your house anymore. You can have that back. We're going to go get another house." And do you know, we love that just as much.
That's okay, sure.
that's just fine with us. They don't get a refund, but it's definitely an opportunity for people to learn, that there is a path for them to take. So we've helped many, many people just on that path.
Yeah, that's fantastic. It's all about giving people, I think, three things, right? Giving them an education, giving them the training and the tools that they need to know where to start, how to do it, right? And then secondly, you're giving, so the first is the education. I think the second is tools, actual tools and systems and support and everything else. And the last is the community, being a part of your group. I'm sure you have a Facebook group page and things like that where people can jump on, ask questions, and get the support they need. And if you have education, tools, and support or community, anything's possible. Look out, right?
Well, Patrick, you've put your finger on two things that I have for our members that become Path to Homeownership members. Twice a month, I'm on a direct call with them. We send them a text and email inviting them to that call. It's always on the first and third Tuesday nights at 8:00 p.m. Eastern. And I'm right there to answer questions for them. So I'm bypassing the field, I'm direct to the customer to make sure that they're getting all the help and support that they need. And then secondly, for my licensees that are the entrepreneurs that are offering this, every Sunday night, 9 p.m. Eastern time, I'm on a call with them along with my team, and we're answering questions and supporting them, training them, and helping them to build their amazing businesses that are providing this Path to Homeownership program.
That's wonderful. Well, we're up against the end of our show. It's always amazing to me how fast the time flies by. I really enjoyed having you, Lou. How do people get a hold of you if they want to learn more?
Absolutely. So if you're an entrepreneur and are interested in certified affordable housing provider, becoming one, go to certifiedaffordablehousingprovider.com. And also you can check out streetsmartinvestor.com. And we've got so many different ways that you can reach us. And I'm going to put some links in your chat box below. But certainly you can call our 800 number, 1-800-578-8580. And as I said, you're welcome to download my book, Doing Good While Doing Well, at getdoinggoodbook.com. That will enter you into our database, and we'll begin communicating with you and sending you some valuable real estate information and inviting you to upcoming events and things like that.
Well, you've been a fantastic guest, Lou. I know you've done this many, many times, so you're an old pro, but still, I know our audience is going to enjoy this. I heard recently we're the fastest growing show on Voice America.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing. Out of 500 shows out there, that's kind of a feather in our cap. We're figuring it out. But our guest,
I love what you're doing, creating certainty. Oh my gosh, what a great understanding about what people really need. They want certainty in their life right now in these crazy times that we live in. No doubt about it. There is no certainty. But at least if we can create certainty in someone's own micro economy and micro life, and forget about the macro of everything else and just focus on the micro, we can definitely help a lot of folks.
Yes, we can. We've been visiting with Lou Brown. He's the founder and CEO of the, get it right because it's a mouthful, Certified Affordable Housing Provider, and streetsmartinvestor.com. Thanks for being here, Lou. We really appreciate you. And certainty is out there, guys. Go get it, and we'll help if we can.
Yeah, baby. Awesome.
Thanks for tuning into today's episode of Finding Certainty. We hope you've gained some more insight into how to create more certainty in your own business or nonprofit. Join us next week for another taste of the Certainty Experience. Until then, we wish you greater certainty in all that you do.